and welcome to this special edition of Trader Talk TV coming from New York. Today we have Schmidt from Cadreon. Erica, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Kieran?
Very well. Today we're going to talk about the Cadreon proposition and the evolution of the agency model. So before we do that, give us an overview of what you do here at Cadreon and maybe a bit more about Cadreon itself.
Sure. So I've been with Cadreon now for 2 years. I'm the Managing Director of North America, which quite honestly means mostly spent on the US. I have teams in New York, Detroit, Chicago, LA, and San Francisco, and my role is to generate value for our clients and generate value for the business. And so I spend quite a lot of time with our clients on their strategic construct for programmatic, working with our agency partners along with that, and just making sure that we're continuing to grow and innovate what we do. So no day is the same, and every day is crazy.
So let's talk about the evolution of Cadreon, because
Yep.
obviously the trading desk model is going through a bit of an evolution itself. I mean, it started off as a straight, so in many cases, a lot of holding groups, a kind of a black box solution, but it's evolved into sort of more of a consultative thing, kind of evolving with the times. But talk about Cadreon sort of timeline. Where did it start and where you are now?
Yep. So we were actually quite proudly the first to enter the trading desk space, and probably the first to walk away from that vernacular as a descriptor. It was already starting to kind of have negative connotations, but we felt like the vernacular of trading desk was not fully representative of who we are. And that's for a lot of reasons. One is because a lot of the trading desks that exist, or in their former permutations, would quite honestly not really leverage self-service platforms. They wouldn't put the rigorous evaluation behind what is still a complex tech ecosystem. And we're just using it as a way to just kind of push money around and to replace ad networks. We have a very strong product team. We have rigorous evaluation. And what we think is really special about ourselves, besides those things, are our specialist operators and the strategy that we layer on top of that.
So it's a programmatic first proposition. But
we're really at the intersection between tech and agency.
Okay.
So when we talk to our advertisers, they'll say, well, why aren't we compensating you the same way that we would an agency? Because we're structured very differently. They see the tip of the iceberg of our business, which is people like myself and my team, but we have many layers underneath that help support what we're able to deliver for our clients. And we do have not only our tech relationships, but the way that we pull our own tech together in order to kind of plumb the whole ecosystem to be able to make it effective.
So you offer the consultative piece, but then you have a tech layer as well. Talk about a little bit of tech layer. What does that involve? What's the offering?
So we've developed over the past year. In fact, we just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of our product called Unity.
Unity.
Yes.
Okay.
So it oft confused for a meta DSP, which it is not. We're not looking to replicate what the DSPs do. However, in a world with increasingly walled gardens and complexity, we believe that we need to have that layer that sits on top that allows us to systemically push out our client campaign shells to those different ecosystems. Of course, my team is still logging into the platforms themselves. We're building a layer in there on how we manage our marketplaces, because obviously we have our Magna team, which is our sister team that is working with all the supply side platforms and our publisher platforms to bring in our private marketplaces.
So is it the Unity product? Is it a sort of a UI or sort of a layer to bring in analytics?
Yeah, so absolutely the report. So it's front end from the minute we know that we're going to start working on a campaign, pushing that out to the DSPs, and then there's the feedback layer so that we're getting the reporting back in as well.
And it's connected via an API to all the all the DSPs. Say, yes, we're happy with this, so we push in and just so
I wouldn't say all, but most.
Well, some who probably want to keep their UI not connected. But it's interesting that sort of that in a world of complexity that actually has value, because you've got how many DSPs you work with, how many supply partners you work with. That's an important layer, particularly for your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we have a tiering process for how we evaluate the DSPs. So our tier 1 DSP platforms, there's 30 of them worldwide. So
that's a nightmare.
Right? Whereas, and again, this is why we think we're differentiated, is we haven't put all of our eggs in one proverbial basket.
Yes, and regionally, you kind of have to look at different DSPs, either unique supply or unique demand or data.
Or capabilities, right? So the point being is that every brief that we work on, and when we think about how we engage with the client about if they're looking to have effective reach and looking for breakthrough moments, for example, Hershey's icebreakers, well then, what are the right things that we want to incorporate into that strategy, and how are we going to be able to deliver on it? Which means that you are patching together a lot of different platform partners as well as third party.
And that's in fairness, you look at it from a global perspective, and like you've got so much going on globally that you need one central point for your clients to can see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is right now an industry misconception or an outsider misconception about this space that it's commoditized and simplistic. And I think that's ridiculous.
Absolutely, and I think that's a very that can be a very US-centric view sometimes, because obviously Google and Facebook are very powerful in this market. But globally, you've got Baidu in China, in Japan,
Yandex, Russia,
Russia, Yandex, and even in Europe, even in America, you've got different companies. And I guess the other thing that's interesting is that you're working in different channels as well. So while display, and we talk about like graphical display is being dominated by two companies, we've got digital out of home, we've got programmatic, you've got audio. I mean, like you've got Spotify, TV, yeah, absolutely. If I could forget TV. So the clients, like obviously the outside view and the trade press and mainstream press are obviously got their view of the world, but the clients obviously see the value of what you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I think we have to continue to demonstrate that value, and value is different to every advertiser, right? But the point being is that when you have someone like us who could come in, navigate this ecosystem and act like an architect on their behalf and a strategic advisor, there's tremendous value in that. And I have a client yesterday saying, okay, so now I see it on real tangible example, you're 40% better than what I was doing previously.
Right.
That's, to me, really remarkable.
But interesting, though, do you think that the metrics have changed in terms of how you talk to clients, and the outcomes are a lot different from what they were?
Absolutely.
Can you explain a little bit more of that?
Well, yeah. So what I find really interesting is if you think about the spectrum of clients that we have. So we have two large automotive advertisers, Chrysler and BMW. We have several large CPG advertisers, so the Hershey's and the Coca-Colas of the world. As well as insurance providers. We've got the broad spectrum of it.
Yeah.
The CPGs, I think, are the ones that are the most intriguing, because they're the ones who you would have thought would be last to the party in terms of trying to think about what their own stack looks like, what they're doing about data, or finding ways to have their owned and operated data, to really navigating through this ecosystem. 2 years ago, if I sat in front of one of those advertisers, they'd be like, we don't know what this programmatic thing is. We just like to do our TV plans, and we know that's effective, right? To now, where they're saying, okay, we're looking at what we're doing in the DMP space, we're looking at what we're doing in the, what relationships we need to have with providers, and really what our data is all about, which means that the KPIs have evolved. So
interesting.
And really, on the CPG spectrum, it's how do we prove out sales, right?
How do we move more shampoo?
Move product. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's been some, trade press again, or
trade press. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
People like yourself,
yeah.
scared.
I know. We're positive about everything.
But P&G coming out and saying, "Oh, we're not going to do this precision thing anymore.
Right.
It doesn't work."
Right.
I don't think that it doesn't work. It's just they didn't have the measurement in play or the methodology to really say what is the impact or the efficacy of this.
So it's interesting. Do you work with clients to help them build? So I mean, all of this is geared around a really robust attribution system, right? How do I equate for that click or that impression? Do you help to build that sort of like that capability for them?
Yeah, we absolutely help them navigate that through. But I think when it comes to our consultancy, it's about helping them to build what the business case is, the use cases, how they crawl, walk, run, how we help them navigate through all the, so just like we evaluate technology on behalf of all of our advertisers, we help them navigate the technology on their behalf specific to their use cases. And so, it could be from the RFP, a DSP, or DMP, to helping them to onboard it, to helping them to activate that and get real value out of that investment, because it's not cheap.
No. So let's talk about the tech layer for a minute, right? Obviously, there's probably a lot of ad tech companies watching this now, hoping they can get in, into Cadreon and talk to you. But what sort of criteria do you have working with third-party vendors? And it's interesting, ad tech is getting a bit of a kicking at the minute in the press, and obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the public markets, particularly with the likes of Rubicon, who are looking for a buyer now. But in terms of how you work with third parties? What do you look for specifically? I mean, you obviously want differentiated tech and data, but what are the key things you look for?
So the key thing is to really hit that tier one that I talked about. Is one, just overarching strategic alignment, that their vision for the future, or the vision for the next 12 months, as I would really call it, and where they're headed aligns with where we think we want things to go, or where we think the demand is coming from in terms of our advertisers and their requirements. The second requirement is that, that what they say they can do, they can actually deliver, and that our evaluations actually have proven that out. So we do a lot of bake-offs with those partners. And then thirdly, it's let's share roadmaps, right? So how do we make sure that the integrations that we may need, or the innovation that we're looking for, that they will share that product roadmap? And that's really what makes the most valuable partners for us.
And are you seeing this innovation from ad tech? I mean, like, it feels to me that we're going through a bit of a road to Damascus moment, that like finally a lot of this this undifferentiated tech has to kind of consolidate, and it's about a data first or supply first entity. I mean, how are you seeing the space?
If you want my honest opinion, true innovation, I think, has stagnated a little bit. Right.
Interesting.
And I don't know the real reason behind that, other than probably funding and pressures, and those are the things. But when we do sit down with the partners that we do have those really good partnerships with, that's where we're talking about the innovation. And I think where I'm seeing, where we're excited, is things like cross-screen. So getting to, and I'm not talking cross-device is part of that, but cross-screen. So really getting to a screen-agnostic,
a
audience
non-siloed
first,
world,
audience first place.
Yeah.
But of course we have to get the measurement right too, because you have to prove out the efficacy, and you have to get the advertiser to take a leap of faith that goes from being channel specific to audience specific.
Right, and in terms of like the measurement thing, because obviously there are a key touch points with a client that obviously the rest of the world kind of ignores, right? Measurement being one of them. Do you think that's still an issue at the minute?
Absolutely.
All right.
I think it's still, I think, the world of, I think a lot of advertisers are still, and it's because it's what's well known, it's proven, especially in the TV space. Yeah, our measurement proxy is Nielsen rating points.
Right.
But we know that that's a panel.
Yeah, and that's
versus
the problem.
Real volume of, what you can get in terms of the volume of the U.S. consumption patterns.
And obviously,
and until there's some vein of acceptable measure and a shift in that marketplace, it's going to be difficult for the rest of that to come along.
And obviously the fragmentation as well, particularly around TV now, the consumption, that's a big issue as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting thing is we know that the consumption patterns have changed.
Yeah.
Yet most of the big TV operators are still trading on they're monetizing their supply on the basis of the ratings. But there's a shift in where audiences are consuming the content. The measurability there is not all that great. The monetization of that is sometimes packaged into the TV upfront. So there's a lot of shift that's coming in the ecosystem, and we're working really hard to navigate through that.
Well, we could spend another 2 hours talking about TV, and I'm sure we will. We'll speak at ATS New York this year. We'd love to have you back. So when we're back in New York again, we'll definitely talk about TV.
Sure.
Erica, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Karen.
And that was
always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And that was Trade to Talk TV, and we'll see you next time.